G'day fellas and welcome to a casted game. Spawning in on the west side of the map in the color blue, playing as the Holy Roman Empire. He is finally back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Don Arty. And on the east side of the map in the color red, playing as the English, we got Tips, AOE.ttv. That is correct. If you'd like to go check him out, well, I don't even need to leave a link. You know exactly where to find him. But you know what? I will leave a link anyway because I absolutely love Tips. He's a great guy. I shouldn't talk this much in depth about the players early on, but I'm gonna talk your ears off quickly. Well, not quickly. I mean, you know what? I'm gonna tell you quickly to like the video, and now we can get on and talk about Tips. So Tips, I don't know why his name is Tips, but I suspect it's because after every game he plays, even when he wins, he asks for tips from the enemy. I remember the first time I played against Tips, and he asked me for tips. I was like, oh, that's weird. No one's ever done that before. And then I kind of connected the dots. I'm like, must be his thing. Must be. He's got an absolute massive spreadsheet. I think he's got it like all automated and everything. He's got like Zapier working in the background with his spreadsheets about all the tips that he's gotten. I'm not even kidding you. If you think I'm trolling, I 100% am not. Go check him out. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can watch him. And if you want to watch Don as well, go watch Don as well. Don is such a funny guy. It's been so long that I've known Don. I knew him back in the AoE 3 days, and he's always been just this hilarious fellow. He just kind of plays for the memes, if you know what I mean. So he plays for victories, but he doesn't really play by the meta. He doesn't really care about the meta. He will still obey the meta, when money's on the line or when a tournament's on the line. But for the most part, he's a big memer, and that's what I love about Don Arty. So I'm curious what we're going to see out of him today. He's gone with a pretty standard opening, nothing too crazy here. Starting off having a look at this Ark and Chapel spot, he's got an absolute, I say an absolute, it's not really absolute. He's got a relatively decent one around here. Hits the gold, hits the stone, hits the wood line as well. I think he could probably put it pretty close to this wood line and maybe still hit that gold, but I reckon he's probably just going to go somewhere here-ish and look to put that down. At the same time, he could go for something on the back, but I mean, this actually isn't that bad going for the Ark at the back. But it looks like Don indeed will just be going for that standard Ark and Chapel up against the wood, and we'll be able to drop the mining camp on the stone. So probably going to be looking for that second TC, maybe into a castle age. Of course, we haven't spoken much about the matchup. This is a fun matchup, a matchup that I love. Ever since the change to the Council Hall. Do you guys remember back in the day when the Council Hall didn't have the ability to train the crossbow, how terrible this matchup was? I would cry myself to sleep every night about this matchup. It was that damn horrible. But things have changed. They've changed for the better for the English. So I'm curious to see exactly how Tips is going to be looking to play this matchup. One of the big things that I think is important in this matchup, even if you want to play feudal, you got to get castle. I think that there is a certain amount of feudal that you can play, but the reality is you're always going to get outdone by the enemy men-at-arms, and you just simply can't allow yourself to get caught in feudal forever. And there's a really good chance that they're going to find that opening for Castle Age, and you're not going to have an answer to the units that they've got in that Castle Age era without the crossbowmen. And so it just means that it's difficult to play without it. So I'm curious to see how Tips looks to play. He's normally a bit more aggressive, I would say, as an English player when I've watched him. We do start to see the wheelbarrow coming through. Pretty early age up for both of these guys. We're right on board with Don Arty because over on his side of the map, the age up is about to complete. The Ark and Chapel before us. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, coming through. The prelate jumps inside and inspires all of these villagers. He actually just heads back to the food villages. What do we got going on over here, Don? Couple villagers now moving over to the Woodvilles, but out of everything, they picked that tree, and now I got no idea what Don's doing. I tell you what, Don's probably a little bit rusty. That's what's happening. Anyway, we're not going to watch Don as he population blocks himself. Jeez Louise. What am I... Don, I thought you guys were Conqueror 3. And here, all of a sudden, Don Arty's getting population blocked at 4 minutes and 16 seconds. Look how long he's still population blocked. Poor Don Arty. Anyway, we got the age up coming. He's still population blocked. There we go. He's fixed it up. Anyway, we got the age up coming through now from Tips. And the first of the longbows is out. Over on the other side of the map, we do begin to see the presence of the scout. So he's looking to try and find a way through here, looking for those resources to hit. I don't think he's actually spotted the gold vein just yet, so he's not 100% sure where it is, but we do see that outpost in the front there from Don Arty, looking to be a little bit preemptive. Ville's moving off the gold, so Don not going for that direct fast castle. He will not I guess for the moment, he'll just, well, he's got a couple of vills. What is Don Artie doing? This is quite curious. Longbows coming out. First, second longbows making their way out. Third one's on the way as well, heading straight towards that gold. And you can see that outpost should do pretty decently against this. The one fear I've got is that he might skirt around the top. I think he probably can get through there, judging by the range of this. And you can never really trust this. I don't know which buildings you can and which buildings you can't, but... Oh, Don. Oh, Don. It's been a while since you've played, Don. I think back in the day, the outpost was 8 range. Now it's only 7. So these these longbows just walk past the outpost. They're like, outpost where? Sorry, we didn't see it. No, there was no outpost there, sir. I can assure you, we did not see anything. But look at this. Don Artie going for a secret little stable. Is going to get spotted out, though. Expect on the other side of the map to see a barracks thrown down almost immediately in response. Let's have a look and see how Tips plays it as he begins to posture towards that town center, doing a decent job of tracking these villagers. We can see the scout also is behind the scenes. He's got an open alleyway back here if he wants to escape, but Don Artie able to take out both of those longbows, those pesky little longbows, with the town center. Back towards the other side of the map, though, we do see Tips begin to throw down that barracks. And check out his resources. The 3 villages on gold to me indicates he is intent on playing this one in feudal. He doesn't want to take this one to castle, at least at this stage. He's put out a fair few units here. You know, we did see that beastie build where you've got like the 4 longbows, the 4 spearmen, and then you just kind of leave it at that. Build a second TC, go castle age. Tips not opting for that. Going for a bit more aggression today. Barracks almost up. Right on board with Don Artie as the scout looks to escape out of the base. Speaking of escape right now, it looks like the wolf has managed to make it behind the walls and will begin harassing the villager. Hopefully, Don, he does indeed pick it up in time. The villager won't be going down, at least not today. And up towards the north, more walls coming in. Hopefully, we do see gates thrown down on these. It just makes it a little bit easier to get the prelates in and out. It's always terrible when you're getting camped on the front or something like that and you're trying to get those prelates in on the back. We'll have to watch and wait how he plays it. He's got plenty of resources in the bank. The scout will go down, and he does spot more and more longbows heading towards his base, so expect to see... He's going for another scout. He's not even making horsemen, he's just making scouts. I don't know what this scout defense is all about. Outpost now coming up. He's throwing down a second arrow slit in placement as well. A third outpost, Don Artie, that is illegal. This early on in the game, sir. You are a Conqueror 3 player. This is not a bronze match. But we're right on board with Tips as the push begins to come through here. Keep in mind, spearmen have now been added into the mix. This did get scattered out. This sneaky little stable did get scattered out quite early on. Don's not doing particularly well on these resource counts. And have a look at this. Don's got a whole bunch of food in the bank. No gold, though. Outpost. Able to defend against the longbows. Keep in mind, this one's got arrow slits as well. And Tips could be looking for a play towards battering rams here. And I think that could be a reasonable play. But by the way, can I just ask, where's my music? There has been no music now for a couple minutes. I've been waiting for it to come back in. I don't know if this is a bug or what is going on. Yeah, you better bloody play that damn music game. What is going on with that? It must have been like 3 or 4 minutes. Now it's coming back in. All right, now it's coming back in. I tell you what, sometimes the game just stops playing music. It's like, you know, that keeps me company. It keeps me sane. Can you imagine a life without music? It'd be a tough life, wouldn't it? The blessings of those beautiful songs. I tell you what, I'd sing you guys a song right now from a movie that my son watched earlier today. I'll give you a hint. It was about... I was just going to say the name of the movie. It was about a girl named Moana. Oh, gosh. I just don't want to get DMCA'd. You know, Disney, they're crazy with their DMCA. So, you know, you even like say 3 lyrics to the thing and they'll take you to court. Even they might not even, they're not in the right, but they'll take you to court. You got to pay. You said those words in that order, my friend. That is copyright infringement. Anyway, speaking of infringement right now, Don Artie doing a little bit of the infringing of the other kind. Going for the Burgrave Palace. That is not something I expected to see on a map like this. You know, typically on this map, you've got relics that are so easy to grab, so it really promotes going for the Regnitz Cathedral. Yet here we see him going for the Burgrave, which is interesting, because he's going to use this as a way to defend against this attack. And I think this is an imminent threat against him, but I also think to an extent he probably could have just made 2 or 3 barracks behind the town center and just spammed them out. But we can see at the moment not a lot of resources in the bank for those barracks. So I guess it just makes sense to go into the Burgrave here. He'll look to pick up those relics, steal them away, and hopefully he can look to pick up 4 to 5 relics and then you know, look for that early transition into the Imperial Age, try and get that Tithe Barns, and that's some way that you can mitigate not having that Regnitz Cathedral. But early men-at-arms now beginning to come out. That push from the north side, obviously scouted out by Don Artie. He sees it well and clearly. He sees it clearly to the north, crystal clear. Unfortunately, gold going to be idled out. Might have to think about moving down towards these south gold veins. Villagers have come out onto the map as well. Keep in mind, Don loves to fight with his villagers. Expect these villagers to get into some decent action today. Down on that south side. Look at this. He's hunting for the relic, but oh my lord, he's been camped up. Tips. I tell you what, he doesn't need any tips when it comes to... No, never mind. No tips needed. No tips needed, ladies and gentlemen. That longbow single-handedly keeping the Holy Roman Empire down. That is the definition of a Giga Chad. We're right on board though with Don Artie as the first of the battering rams comes through. Keep in mind he's got the men at arms here. No +1 ranged armor just yet for Don Artie. Something that's really important. You want to try and focus that. What's going on here, Don? Why do we feel the need for a market? Is it because you've gathered up all this wood and you can't get any gold? Is that what he's thinking? I guess that's what he's thinking, right? Because this is still pretty susceptible to attacks out here. It just takes a couple of longbows and spears to walk over in this direction, and all of a sudden, you don't have any gold. Or maybe from this direction. You can see the beautiful patrols coming through as well from Tips. This is wonderful. Up to 40 military pop. I think this is the point right here where Tips probably needs to go to castle. If he doesn't go to castle here, I think almost certainly his attack is going to get repelled by Don. The question's going to be about whether he dies to Don's Burgrave Palace, because that's what you want to avoid happening. And that's definitely a real possibility here. Scout at the backside. Looks to spot out some additional villagers. Men-at-arms beginning to move through. Emergency repair is going to come down on the house and should look to hold this off for a bit longer. Men-at-arms trying their best to deal with the longbows before they make their way down to the villagers. You can see that Don's probably going to lose out a couple of villagers here. That longbow number is significant. There's the first of them. Second one coming through. I just would have preferred coming down here and running a big loop-de-loop. So he's lost out. It looks like 4 villagers at the moment. A couple more villagers back here. Does have the scout, so can see this. We'll lose a 5th villager. Don losing vills left, right, and center here. Well, that's if I zoom in. Left, right, and center. Meanwhile, towards the north, villagers looking to burn down those battering rams will be able to find it. So I'll say overall, the attack from Tips, obviously not game-ending at this point, but doing a bit of damage here. I think getting the 6 vills, probably not where you want it to go, right? Like, you would have preferred more villagers than that. For 2 battering rams, 6 vills, it's a little bit weak. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, the most important thing right now is that Tips just doesn't die. That's the big thing, because Don, there's a good chance that he might be looking to move into top gear here with these men-at-arms as they begin to make their way across the map. You can see they've picked up plenty of upgrades. I don't know whether they've picked up that extra movement speed just yet. All of these men-at-arms are charging, so it's hard to check. No, they haven't just yet. But we do see that extra armor's on the way now. +1 ranged armor's come through. And now it's going to be about collecting those relics. Don beginning to move out over onto the map. He's got 1 relic so far in the bag. Looking to chase away a couple of these units, and there's still plenty of units out here. Longbow spear up to the north. Couple spears looking to make their way on the backside. More ranged units coming in, looking to try and find villagers. We'll be able to pick them off. It looks like 1's gone down. Is that a prelate? Yeah, villager. That's 2. There's the 3rd one. And Tips just having an absolute field day, taking out these villagers. Does he go for the split? No, he doesn't. Can't have the micro, at least not today. Here we go. He's going to split it. He didn't split it. Look at the amount of vills that are going down here, though. He's going to be able to clean up absolutely everything. And Don Artie losing out 14 villagers so far this game. Wall on the other side of the map, and the age up about to come through from Tips. And I just got to say, from Tips, absolutely perfect. Oh, sorry for hitting the microphone right there. Didn't mean to touch you. The reason why I touched you was because I made that little sign where I'm like, absolutely perfect. It's like, you know, you've cut into the steak, you've asked for medium rare, and they actually cooked it medium rare. How many times do you order a steak? I don't know about you guys from the States, but for me in Australia, I'm always ordering steak. I love myself a good steak. And I just say medium rare. And you cut it open, and it's like, this is medium. This is bordering on well done. Get it out of here. I don't really say that. I just put more chili sauce on it, and I'm like, yeah, there we go, that's fine. Well, to be honest, I don't really eat my steaks with chili sauce anymore. I used to back in the day. I'm more of like a chicken and chili sauce kind of guy now. I tell you what, how good. We've got this place in Australia called Nando's. I don't know if you guys in the States have got it, or you guys in Germany have got it, but I tell you what, it is life-changing. The chicken that they do, it's Portuguese chicken, if I remember correctly. It's spicy. Maybe it's not Portuguese. Anyway, we'll talk about chicken later because we got ourselves a little bit of a fight here. The new age begins. Expect to see crossbows immediately trained up here for Tips, and beautiful work. Tips not needing any tips at all this game. He knows exactly what he's doing. The question's going to be, so he wants to avoid losing these units. This is key. He needs to bring these units back so that his crossbows have got a frontline buffer, because if his crossbows don't have anything, he's going to be in a tough spot. You want to avoid making lots of crossbows. Oh my god, he went for the white tower. This is definitely a little bit of an over investment in the defense, I think, coming out from Tips here. He could have gotten away with the King's Palace as long as he had that front line. That was the key for me, is that he's lost that front line, and now those resources, I realistically not a lot of resources in the bank. We'll be able to hold for the moment because of the white tower. So I guess maybe that goes back to Tips relying on that white tower to defend here. More crossbows going to be coming in. He's continuing to train villagers. And I think the one thing I'd love to see from Tips is this right here, which is what he's doing. So these villagers need to begin transitioning out to those additional food sources because you're being raided, right? So you need to make sure that your villagers can continue to gather food at this point. And Don Artie, front door's been closed for him. He's now going to look to start taking sacred sites behind this. Never mind. He's just heading down towards this relic. Let's see if the Wallalol's successful this time. I suspect it probably will be. As long as he clicks it straight away. Tips not paying attention. Needs to delete this longbowman. Don't run it, Tips. Delete it, delete it, delete it. It's not going to make it, Tips. And unfortunately, that's one for the bad guys. Tips losing it out to Don Artie. Majority of these units have been cleaned up. Crossbow numbers are up to a decent amount here. Up to about 4 is where it begins to go in favor of the crossbowmen, but we hear additional upgrades coming through. It's going to be Don Artie with the textiles upgrade. Not sure exactly why that is, or why he feels the need to go for textiles at this point. It doesn't look like villagers are under attack. He's moving for the boar in the north. Okay, that's why he's going for textiles. Just wants to avoid losing out any villagers to that boar, I suspect. A lot of villagers on gold back here for Tips as well. It's beginning to focus more on those upgrades. So I think a couple of things that Tips could have done differently. Tips, I'm throwing these tips out for you as well as for everybody else. I would have said, look to try and get Castle Age a little bit faster than what you did. Also, just make sure you don't lose that big army at the front. You did the right thing pulling the villagers back. Get them into the TC, but make sure you keep that army alive. And then try your best to build up a mass of crossbows as much as you can upon hitting that Castle Age. And you've kind of got to anticipate that the attack will happen. And you do have to stockpile resources, anticipating that you're going to go idle. But I think for the most part, it was a pretty decent hold. The only reason, or the only thing I would critique is just the landmark decision. I don't think you needed to go white tower here. I think you could have gotten away with a King's Palace. So there's your Tips. And we move on to the next stage of the video, which is the casting. The tips are done. Well, at least for this stage, as Don Artie with his single longbowman. He stole our longbowman, but he never touched our hearts. Not really. Don Artie always steals our hearts. Don Artie finds a way to steal our hearts every single game he plays, this guy. Nice little farm transition going for Don here. Not too bad. How many farms are we up to, Don? 9 farms. Not too bad for 18 minutes into this game. Oh, he's looking for an Imperial Age. I didn't even realize that. This is kind of ballsy right now to go for Imp. If Tips was playing into Crossbow Spear here and pushing him, I mean, are you really going to push someone Crossbow Spear knowing that there's a chance they go Imp? Probably not. That's a bad decision, I think, because then you can just look to upgrade his outposts. Well, to be honest, he can't actually upgrade them from here, but I think he could look to throw down additional outposts. Like, if you're getting pushed with Crossbow Spear... Oh, he deleted it in time! Oh my lord, he deleted it in time with 2 health. The prelate manages to survive, deletes the the military units just on the edge of it, but it looks like we will have that push coming through. It is going to be Crossbow Spear coming in. The one thing that I'm scared about for Tips is that Don Artie builds a single outpost here, gets a cannon emplacement on it. I mean, realistically, Don's got no stone in the bank, though. I guess there's that to note. But yeah, cannon emplacement. He's got emergency repairs. He can pull villagers. The cannon emplacement just kills all the units very, very quickly. And that's all she wrote on the attack. So it's one of those things where it's... Yeah. Anyway, where does Tips go from here? I don't really know. This matchup I've played quite a bit. But I think in the context of where the game currently sits, where economies are pretty even, you might have to think about going into 2 or even 3 TCs just to match the Swabia. And you may have to play the long game. The problem is this Swabia is going to pay off really, really quickly. And Don's going to be on a huge amount of villages in a short amount of time. He's going to pay barely nothing for them, which means he's going to be able to pump all those resources into his military. And then he's going to be able to hit you with a huge mass, a huge timing in probably about 5 to 6 minutes. If you do look to go for that. But outpost up in the north, looking to try and keep the prelate alive. Not going to be able to find it. It does go down. More units still on patrol. I will compliment Tips. How good is his patrolling? I really like the patrol coming out. What are these villager routes, Don? What is going on here? You're doing a little bit of the ring around the rosy, it seems. But I will compliment Tips on his patrol. So for anybody wondering, why does Tips use patrol in these situations, right? Like, why are these units on patrol? And the reason is because he's using the hotkey for all idle military. And he's saying, all idle military, please come here to the front. Well, there's a little bit of a different route here, but you get the point. And the problem is, if these guys are doing something, right, in which case they are patrolling, in this case, then you don't want them to come up to the front. And if you select all your idle military, it will bring them up to the front. So what he does is patrols them, and then that way, you don't have to worry about calling them over when you wanted them to actually do something else. So that is a really smart move there, and I do like the way he does that. I think that was actually, I wouldn't say pioneered, but it was popularized by Lucifron. Lucifron was actually someone who did that. But we've got the knights beginning to come through. Men-at-arms don't yet have that extra little bit of damage. We can see it coming through now. Heavy maces, an extra 6 damage for the attacks against heavy units. Battering rams making their way through. Keep in mind, Don Artie is in the Imperial Age here. Yet to find any of those elite upgrades just yet. Horseman upgrades have come through, though. He's picked up the veterancy. And now the villager's going to get pulled. A lot of vills here. And men-at-arms coming through around onto the bottom side. Looking to try and get in onto those crossbows. Remember, the crossbows have got the advantage once their numbers are high enough to one-shot. But that is with the exception of the Holy Roman Empire, who've got very, very quick men-at-arms. And now look at all the villagers coming out of the castle and saying, where are they at? Bringing the torches with them as well. Wait, is he actually bringing the villagers to fight right now? Is Don Artie going for this? Don Artie don't care. You know, this is one of the things you got to be really careful about with Don Artie, is if, oh my god, all of the villagers are coming to fight. The thing with Don Artie is, no, don't do this, Tips. This is a massive mistake. If Don Artie's going to pull every villager, I guarantee you Don Artie pulls every villager right now. Don Artie loves villager fights. He always backs himself. You can see that both of these players have picked up that extra... Look at the amount of villagers that are in here. Don Artie going ham right now. 67 vills versus 66. They are getting out onto the field. He's trying his best just to take out Tips at this point. He reckons he's got the numbers advantage and says, I'm just going to bring the vills in. Let's see exactly what we can find. Meanwhile, back in the base, it looks like Don hasn't brought everything just yet. Still got some villagers working, but has gone absolutely ham. And you can see the number that he's managed to pull here. Still, Tips only losing out 5 villagers this game. He's taken out plenty from Don, but Don can afford to throw them away. Don's got the Swabia. And I think that's part of the reason why he just doesn't care at this point. He realizes this is a pivotal moment. If he doesn't hold this, he could be in trouble. And because of that, he lets those villagers go out there, do the battling for him. And, well, the rest is history at this point as Tips runs back towards his gate, tail between his legs. Well, there's no tail between them. I mean, there is a tail on the knight, so I'll say it, tail between the legs. And he holds the push. And now from here, Don Artie just casually goes for his, this is a patented move for anybody wondering, the 23-minute wheelbarrow. This is especially good for the Holy Roman Empire, who gather much faster. So, you know, ideally with the wheelbarrow, you're carrying more. Oh, by the way, you get to carry more. So with the Holy Roman Empire, they actually get enhanced wheelbarrow, right? Because they carry 40% more resources. So wheelbarrow is really good with them. So for Don leaving this until 23 minutes, this is an ultra niche an ultra niche use of this technology. Normally, you'd want to pick this up a bit earlier, kids. Anyway, the push in the middle of the map. Going to get shut down here. It looks like Tips might be in a little bit of trouble. Technically, he's got a military advantage at the moment. I don't know where that is. It's up towards the north. That's where these units are. Just a little bit of a holdout at the moment. Battering ram looks like it might have been doing battering ram things. But on that south side, it looks like Morville's getting involved on the action. Longbowman, unfortunately, runs into a patrol of villagers and has to head back to the drawing board. Reports back and says, hey, unfortunately, we found them. There was a lot of them. Jeez. You got to be so careful with Don. This is the thing. Whenever you pull villagers like that, Don will 100% call you. You can't mess around with Don Artie. And it's really one of those things where it's like, he's done this for years now. How many games have we casted where Don Artie sees one single villager pulled from the enemy and he's like, oh, all right, we're pulling villagers, I'll call it. And then he just brings every single villager to the front line. Didn't go for it there, but I guess the sacred victory wasn't really happening. You know, normally it's the sacred victory that will cause that to happen. But see, speaking of sacred victories though, sacred site now being captured on the south side. Tips doing a good job making sure that he's keeping those resources up. Has he gone for a second TC? Doesn't look like it. Tips at the moment just sitting on the 1 TC. So at this point, the Swabia will eventually, inevitably, overpower him. And that's the scary thing that is running through my mind right now. Trying to pick up a couple of villagers here. We'll find a couple more. And look how many villas Don's lost this game. 44 villagers this game. Swabia is doing some absolute work here. It has been pumping non-stop for the last, what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes maybe? It's been a fair while. And remember, there is a villager coming out of here every, what, 6 seconds, 8 seconds, 7 seconds. There we go. We got it eventually. Compared to the opponent, who's making one villager every 20 seconds. So you're getting the 3 in the time that your enemy's getting 1. That's a pretty good difference. Now the question becomes, which unit composition does Tips look to go into? He's up against men-at-arms. He's up against horsemen. So naturally for me, my thinking, spearman crossbow makes a lot of sense here. You want to avoid going into mangonels. Your enemy doesn't really have a lot of ranged units. Knights can work, but it's very easy for the men-at-arms to have spearmen between them or lansknecht between them. So going for even this combination is actually not a bad combination. I do like this a lot. The knight crossbow. This goes really well, but you do have to play it carefully with your micro, and you have to run your knights in and doing exactly like this, and you have to run them back. You only go in to charge and hold against the horsemen. Tips now looking to hold. He's got to continue microing with the crossbows. He can't stop microing. Needs to keep going back. Make sure he's focusing down all of those men-at-arms. More knights going to start coming in with their charges. You can see he's doing a good job of keeping those charges cycling through. The wonderful micro coming in from Tips. More knights looking good, and Tips actually doing a pretty decent job of holding. Army value is in favor here significantly as long as he just keeps kiting and keeps pressing his military production and pressing WE, whatever it is that you need to press to get more of these units out. Tips in a decent spot for the moment, despite being down an age, being down a Swabia. It's never something that you want to be down against. I tell you that much. The Palace of Swabia goes ham here. But let's check in with Don Artie and see how he's doing, because upgrades are starting to come through. And I'm not talking about your elite upgrades, baby. I'm talking about horticulture. That's tier 1. Don Artie, a little bit slow to the party here. And now, trying his best to defend up against the knights. Once again, looking for more villagers. We'll find a couple of villagers here on the stone, just barely inches away. There is a mass of villagers that would be having Lord Doubt smile upon them if these knights turned up. But unfortunately, they don't turn up and they move on to greener pastures. Down towards the south, it looks like we've got an additional keep starting to come up, looking to protect this large gold vein. 5,000 gold still left in it. He knows there's enemy units in the area, so it makes sense to try and solidify this position. Keep in mind that we do have the sacred site here. I'd love this keep up a little bit closer, but obviously he feels this threat is imminent. Begins to move a lot more units down here. We don't see those crossbows though. I think the crossbows just safely at home for the moment. And now with that keep up, you'll have the extra attack speed and of course just have an extra keep, which will help him defend quite a bit on this south side. Will also allow him to push into this sacred site and begin neutralizing it. But once again, if this keep had been up a little bit closer, it would really give him a wonderful platform to begin contesting this sacred site and consider holding it for, I guess, the remainder of the game, at least until that keep goes down. Northern sacred site, nothing for the moment. And we look once again towards Tips. Remember, the big thing here is that Tips has got a micro. Don Artie, he doesn't need a micro. He just sends all of his units to attack, and eventually they'll be attacking crossbows. A little bit of a wipeout right here. All of these units have got relatively low health. He needs to bring these back, and it's one of the few times I will advocate maybe getting yourself a monk or two out wouldn't be a bad idea. Look at the health on some of these knights. If you had to grab those and collectively guess what their health is, I'd say like 60%. Like that's your median. Well, not even your median. That's the average health of these units. That's not pretty. Back towards the base of Twitch of Tips _AOE.ttv. I looked up at the name and I saw TTV and I'm like, Twitch. Sorry, Tips. 2 relics in the bag. Not a bad amount, considering his opponent was in Castle Age quite a bit before he was. Stone walls beginning to come up. Looking to hold off on this corner. Begin to direct attention towards the center. 30 minutes into this game. It's anybody's ball game at this point in time. If I had to favor anybody, it would probably be Tips. Just simply because we still don't have elite upgrades coming through from Don Artie. Don Artie making a massive mistake right here. It is this single decision that may cost him the game. When the Conqueror 3 player is actually bronze. That is what's happening right now. You're seeing it, you're witnessing it. Crossbow's beginning to move in. He's got to be careful though. Tips, he's going in way too far. Tips, you need to be able to micro this. All of the knights. Tips, no. Tips is throwing. Oh my god, the gold player, the Conqueror 3 player was actually, they're both bronze. Oh, I'm dying right now. You need to micro these away, but he's got nowhere to fall back on. All this time, Tips should just be microing back towards his base. He's got a little bit too aggressive. All of the units get caught out of position, and Tips now going to throw it all away. Don Artie's got the Imperial advantage. He's up a slight amount of villagers, but it doesn't really matter because Tips has lost his entire army in the blink of an eye. No micro coming through from him, and he's just got to tap out like that. Oh my lord, it was the double bronze playoff. I didn't even realize. Fellas, go check out these two creators. I'm going to leave a link in the description of where you can watch them live over on Twitch. Whew, I tell you what, that was fun. And make sure you go and check out the Sultan's Ascend expansion. It's coming soon. Go pre-order it. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment.